when we say earmark. So I don't know how to add that. I didn't really have time to figure out if we could do that in a sentence or two on there or shift something around. But for me, I think that we really need to focus on that. And you guys asked me to follow up with Monson. This kind of ties in. And I did get a call back from Monson since our last meeting from a really awesome lady. Like she's awesome. And Leslie, and she's the one who got the town to vote for it. And she's been the main cheerleader and leader of the thing ever since. So she's about to retire from it and pass it on. But we had a great conversation. She talked about how it works, and everything she said is what I've been trying to drill down on this whole time, is that it's a application driven process, that it's not really the town budget type thing, that it's a separate entity, and that it needs to be sold as it's protected because the law is complex. Like she said, she talks to, I forget their names, but the two of the people have come to us. There's 3 people. So there's always a lawyer on call. And then there's 2 guys that I think we talked to one of them. Maybe we talked to 2 of them that are always on call. And she talks to them all the time to get things shut down and to get things approved, because they kind of come in and say, well, that doesn't make any sense. You know, like their town manager wanted to put money into something that was just didn't pass muster. And she was able to put a kibosh on that by talking to them. Anyway, those things are protections for making this thing what I think is the good aspect of it. And we're kind of leaning, the tone of this kind of leans, I mean, more towards a different direction. Like we're leaving out the beauty of the thing, I think.
Okay, let's start. These funds would be closely protected and then go on from there.
Yeah, I like protected.
And we're closely protected by what?
the nuanced CPA rules.
The rules.
The nuanced CPA rules. I think that, like, if we hone in on that, like, you know, intimate that it's a detailed thing and the details are for our benefit. I mean, we're so used to government being the details and nitty gritty being against us, right? But in this case, their nitty gritty actually makes this thing what makes it different and good. According to me, my take on it and Monson's take on it.
Closely protected.
And the CPA's take on it on their website.
Yeah, by the rules.
I mean, we can call it the law.
Would it be the rules governing disbursement of funds?
Yeah, or just the CPA law itself.
Say guidelines.
There you go.
Guidelines. These funds would be closely protected. How about this? These funds would be closely protected by an independent citizen-led CPA.
Well, it's not the committee so much that protects it, it's the law itself is what I want.
Yeah, but I was going to add that. Governed by
Okay.
the rules or governed by the guidelines.
Or how about the CPA law guidelines? I mean, or the CPA guidelines and the committee. I think put the law first. Like I think we should emphasize that. Or
The guidelines of the Community Preservation Act.
There you go. And the
But what I
want to
state is that the citizen-led group, citizen-led committee has to abide by those guidelines.
Yeah.
I don't want to leave that out.
So put end them. So keep that part of your sentence. Just put an end before the part. Just add the CPA part and then put end what you already have.
Hang on. So
Where is it? And the citizen-led.
guidelines. No, I want to say utilized. Utilized by the CPA, the committee.
Oh, there you go.
By the committee.
protected by the law, utilized by the committee.
Yeah.
Yeah, that gets to what I'm trying to go for.
Okay. So the sentence will read, these funds would be closely protected by the CPA guidelines utilized by the CPA committee.
I think that's okay.
How about dictated by? So
That works
utilized
too.
by.
Dictated instead of utilized.
Well, it's not dictated by the committee, but it's, I
It's
like.
dictated by the rules.
Yeah,
the law.
dictated by rules utilized by the
Okay,
committee.
instead
Yeah.
of protected, dictated. Right?
There you go.
These funds
like
would
that.
be dictated by, these funds would be,
Protected by the laws
Would be-
dictated to the CPA members.
these funds would be utilized by the town with the rules that are dictated by, I want to do, we're not going to just protect these funds, we're going to utilize these funds. But we want to make sure that we know that they're going to be utilized by this
Yeah.
rule and committee.
So just keep the protected by the law, utilized by the committee.
I like dictated. Dictated as for disbursement.
Instead of protected.
Yeah, the funds
Okay.
are dispersed dictated by the rules of the CPA and the committee.
Yeah. And
So
I
wanna
think
put
we should,
disbursement.
I think that works, but let's, do we do it in a different sentence where we add that the committee's decisions are all presented to the town meeting and voted on? And that's a
Let's
key
put that
thing.
in there. Let's put that
Yeah.
in there as the next sentence after that.
Yeah.
I would offer that sometimes people bristle at the use of the word dictated, particularly when it's a higher government dictating what you can do on the local level. So I would try to soften that a bit if you could.
Well,
You
we
could just go back to protected. Yeah. I mean, protection is, it's warm and fuzzy and
You know what I
comforting,
mean?
right?
Yep. Kyle,
Yeah.
you okay
Yeah.
with that?
Dave, we can use the word monitored. You're monitoring the funds for the CPA.
Well, actually, we want to talk about the rules. And that they.
Let's just go to,
protect.
I think protected works then.
Okay, Kyle, you're all set with that?
Yeah, the only thing I wanted to say dictated was when it comes to the law, because the laws are dictated to the CPA. They don't utilize them. That makes it sound like they could pick and choose. I would say dictated.
Right.
It's a firm law that they're not going to be able to overstep. They're going to be bound by those. So the laws are dictated to them. I wouldn't say
How about that then? Bound by.
Oh,
that
there
sounds
you go.
good.
That's
It's a little
less
softer.
offensive, but it means the same thing. Yeah.
I like it.
Okay. Anything else in that paragraph? Oh,
I
that
think-
one sentence, what was that sentence that's gonna be after that?
Oh, we need to add something about that whatever the committee decides is voted on at town meeting, presented at town meeting and voted on. Somehow we got to get that in there.
The projects. Projects approved by the committee then need the approval of the town meeting. Further need the approval of town meeting.
Huh. I might need to see it.
The funds approved by the CPA committee will further be further need to be approved by
At town meeting.
annual town meeting.
Okay. Then the last sentence, I mean, I get that we're that there's 10% earmarked, but I kind of feel like saying earmark funds for priorities. I think that makes me ask whose priorities, how, like in
Where are you at? I know what you're saying.
the
and
very
I know-
last sentence. So earmark funds for priorities. I mean, whose priorities? The priorities are citizen driven, right? And that's what you're getting at. And I like that aspect, but the way it's worded makes me think that there's some squishiness, like who's earmarking it? Whose priorities? And like, do they just get this lump sum? Well, that's not how it works. There's applications, people have to put in applications to get this money, and it has to be, but that question leads me.
Why don't we put that citizen-driven initiatives in front of priorities? Or just citizen initiative, citizen.
I mean, you could get rid of the priorities.
Get rid of the priorities and put that up there.
Yeah.
So that will read.
I mean, the beauty of this
earmark
thing is that
funds
it's
for
open. It's
earmark
open for what?
funds. Hang on,
Sorry.
hang on, Mark. Earmark funds for citizen-driven initiatives in the 4 areas. In the 4 areas described above, or in the 4 areas, we can repeat those 4 areas.
Yeah.
Dedicated funding source allows the community to earmark funds for citizen-driven initiatives in the 4 areas of .
Or we could just start over with that sentence and say that a dedicated CPA funding force provides money that wouldn't otherwise be provided for projects that wouldn't otherwise be funded in ways that are controlled by citizens more directly than through the normal machine. Don't take that word for word, but
No, I won't, because I'm not writing all that out.
yeah, I'm just following intention. I mean, that's the beauty of the thing, is that it's open, it's not set, and that sentence just made me feel like somebody's setting the agenda, somebody's priorities, somebody's got some earmarked money sitting there that they're going to decide to do something with. Like, that just gives me that vibe, and that's the antithesis of what the CPA is about, is a vibe like that. It allows for things that wouldn't happen otherwise. I think we should get that in there somehow. It allows for citizen-driven initiatives that wouldn't happen otherwise to happen, or gives them a chance.
Yeah, I know what you're saying.
And Leslie drove that home for me, like when she was talking about what they did with it. Like they spent 750 grand in open space buying stuff and did things that they couldn't otherwise do. Like they put in like a certain percentage, I think 30%, maybe it was 10 or 30%, it must have been 30%, to buy land, and the state would buy the rest of it based on the input from the CPA fund. And you can't do that otherwise. Like, you can't get the state to put 70% on for these lands for these purposes without kicking that 30% down that the CPA gives. Like, they've purchased, it's a town the same size as us has purchased 750 grand worth of properties, or they spent that much on open space. So that, multiply that times 70%, and that's a lot of land in purchases, I think, if I'm doing the math right.
What I'm doing is I'm making those changes on the flies, and then I can share the screen.
Okay.
Talks amongst yourselves.
So when I talked to Leslie, like she was talking about how they have their CPA set up and they spend 5% of the CPA every year goes towards administration. They put it aside and they have a person they hire on an hourly, they pay hourly, that does all the administration. So like, there's a lot more to administration than we've really tackled in our meetings. There's a ton to it. Like you need a person, professional dedicated to it, like not a citizen. You need somebody that's actually sitting down and getting paid to do it. And that came with the 5% admin. And so that's part of where their money goes. And then the big question, that the reason why I contacted them was to talk about why they qualify for 100%, but they rarely get 100% throughout the years. When you see their figures, remember they were the town that was close to us, and their variables fluctuated from year to year. And she couldn't figure out why that was happening. Like none of the metrics used to determine that 100% never varied in their town to explain the variance of what percentage they got. So like they were scheduled for 100%, but they never really got it. Like, I don't know if you guys remember when I talked about that, but she couldn't account for it. Like it didn't make any sense to her. So there's something more going on how the government or the CPA from the state government figures this stuff out. Because it didn't make sense to her why theirs fluctuated so drastically. That's another reason why I thought we needed to be clear about that 100% match not being set in stone, because it isn't.
Yeah.
Oh, another interesting thing about Monson was, and this is something I had been thinking about, talking to some people about, is you really don't know what money you're getting until you get it. And so we've bought into the CPA, and then people are applying for the first year, and the CPA committee that's formed says this one passes muster, this one doesn't, this one does, and we're going to put the money into that. Well, they don't know what money they're going to get yet. And so in order to not be like chasing the ball every year, hoping that you can anticipate what you're going to get correctly and be right, what they did was they didn't do anything for 2 years or for a year. So they just stockpiled their first year. So the first year of the committee and the CPA, they did something. They did like one small investment, but basically they just stockpiled their money and held on to it. So they're always working from last year's money instead of working for the money that you don't know what you're going to get. And I really think that that's what we should do. And when we write our bylaw and present it to the town meeting, I think that bylaw should say that we're going to hold on to the money for a year and sit on it, not do anything. And then you're never playing this guessing game. You're never making promises you can't keep. And also they would not always spend their money every year, like the 10% that gets to each one, like they would put it in the bank basically. And not everything was spent every year. So they would be able to build up funds and have more money to do bigger projects. And I think that's something we should, if we can, build into how we write the bylaw, or how we sell this thing, sell it in a way that creates that paradigm, that it's not just going to be like the first 10 people that apply get it and it's all spent and there's no ability to build up money to do something significant. I feel like I'm talking to myself.
I'm listening.
I can speak to that a little bit too. And I agree with the sentiment, Mark. I'm actually surprised that was their experience in Monson, because it's when they announce what you're getting on any given year in terms of the state match, it's similar to like when the state certifies our free cash. Like, well in advance of your town meeting or you should. And if you don't, then you're doing something wrong. So I'm surprised that was their experience, but it could be based on when they approved it. I'd
Well,
have to
no,
look
no, I
back
mean,
and kind of figure
no,
it out.
they did it very deliberately in order to have a larger amount of money and to not have any unknowns. It was both reasons.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like there shouldn't be unknowns, but that
But there
piece,
are,
I don't know what the backstory was.
there are unknowns, like their amount fluctuates wildly. I don't know if you remember, if you were at that meeting where I presented that information, but their amount that they got fluctuates. And even though they're set for 100%, like they weren't getting that money every year. It was moving all over the place. And they just wanted to, it was two reasons why they did it, both those.
But I guess what I'm saying
we don't
is,
know,
like,
but we don't know what the government's going to do. Like the third round of matching they've always done it so far. But what happens when the economy tanks? Are they going to do it? It's optional. It's not written into the law. The law just says that they can do it. And when shit hits the fan on a lot of other things, if it happens, I don't know if it's going to happen. I'm not an economist, but like the CPA is not going to be like the main priority if people are starving and trolleys aren't working and whatever. So
right.
and also and if you look at this, if you look at this year, every other year there's a certain percentage of the fund that the governor, or I forget who it is, the governor or somebody higher up with the CPA sets aside, I think it's the governor, sets aside a certain fund, I don't know what it's called, and it's part of what the CPA fund is. And this year, the last time I looked into it, the governor hadn't yet done it, and he was months late on doing what they'd done every year since the inception of this thing. So all of a sudden, this year is different than any other year. So I think it is smart to be prepared, and I think it is smart to have the assurance that you know what it's going to be, you have it in hand, and it's also smart to where if something comes up, if an application comes up that needs more money, you're already sitting on a year's worth of money. So you can say you can handle that project.
I'm not saying that it's not smart. What I am saying though is that, like, even when we build our operating budget every year, we're going off projections. Like, I don't know what my revenue is really going to be in the upcoming year, but I can kind of calc out and back into a number. So that's why I'm saying I'm surprised if they ever got caught off guard. Like, then they were really projecting off. But I do agree in the value of like building something up and setting it aside. And then I would also highlight the value of financing, which we do all the time out of existing town coffers. That if you can't do a big bite right now, you can use those CPA funds to pay your debt service. So you could still, if you only had 500,000 in historic, if that's enough to cover a 10-year borrowing for a CPA project, you can leverage your cash in that way too.
With all due respect, the beauty of this thing is that it's not going to get massaged with language where somebody that's not a CPA or an economist or a town manager is going to before you came to town, we all got put to sleep with like this fund and that fund, and we're going to transfer this and we're going to transfer that, and it's going to go from here to there and to here and to there. And by the time you heard the end of that sentence, you didn't have any clue what was going on. And the beauty of this thing is that you have a clue. Here's the money. Here's the money. It's not getting shifted around from this account to free cash to that cash. It's the CPA. It's the CPA period. It follows the CPA laws. It is separate from the speak that you just gave us. That's the beauty of this thing. It doesn't get massaged into some.
But there's no shame in being financially savvy either. And that's all I'm saying is like that's an opportunity too if people wanted to go that route, if you ever had to.
Well, financially savvy is having a year under your belt and having the money to spend before you spend it.
It is, but like so like by example, right? If we're doing simple math, if you're saying, all right, the cost of this project is going to escalate with inflation, we're projecting it's going to escalate 10% every year for the next 3 years, or you could do it all now and borrow with an interest rate of 5%. Well, then you're better off borrowing and paying that interest because it's going to cost you less than inflation will in the long run. So I think if there's a way that you can articulate that to people, I just wouldn't discount it. There's value in the right circumstances in doing that.
Yeah. But
I do agree that the preference is if you can build up big coffers and just knock it out in a splash, then yeah, absolutely. Like, that's the way to go. But sometimes if you're in a squeeze, like you can maneuver.
Well, I'll reach out to her again and get some more get her to refresh my memory on the logic of why they did that, but they were, I mean, it was a pretty big deal that they did that, and it was really well thought out.
Okay,
Anyway,
yeah, that discussion could go on all night.
yeah, that's a separate from tonight.
So I've changed the language to the way we agreed. I may have taken one or two liberties. The first paragraph, all we really changed is studied. Second paragraph, we placed an at, we believe that. Excuse me, we added in that, we believe that. The last paragraph is where we did some changes. Starting with the second paragraph. The funds disbursement would be bound by the CPA guidelines and by an independent citizen-led CPA committee. It would not be rolled into the general operating budget. Does that make sense to everyone?
I don't know how to see it. There we go. So you're gonna still stick with under current conditions?
Well, let's do this paragraph for this sentence first.
Oh, okay, I didn't know you'd, okay.
The one that I've grayed.
I like that.
Okay.
Dave, should it be these funds disbursements would be bound by the CPA?
Yeah. Good catch. Okay, so that's it. And then the next one, what was the question, Mark?
Oh, on the
About
second
the
paragraph,
Second
the
paragraph.
under current determining metrics and anticipated governing body decisions
Okay, I
on
missed
the
that. So,
the third sentence, while the match from the state varies year to year, this would represent 100% match under current conditions is what it says now. And I'm proposing under the
okay,
third,
while the
second, the
state- while
third
the match-
sentence on the second paragraph.
okay, what is that? What did we change that to? You're right, we did change it. But I
Un- Under current determining metrics, govern and governing body decisions.
Oh, that's the one I asked you to email to.
Oh,
me.
to send to you, okay.
But we can do it. Let's do it right here while it's up here. While the match from the state varies from year to year, this would represent what?
Under current determining variables. So keep going after, right,
Under
yeah.
current,
There,
current what?
determining, not determining metrics.
And now you're gonna see how shitty I do this.
And anticipated governing body decisions.
You're gonna explain this at town meeting. Governing body decisions.
Yeah. Unless we know the name of that governing body, we could just name it. But I don't remember. But I do like abstractly saying it so that it's visually clear that it's somebody making a decision in a room somewhere.
Okay. So there we go. Is that okay?
Good with me.
Okay, and then we go down. Okay, we got that sentence done. So we're gonna say reliant. The dedicated funding source allows the community to earmark funds for citizen-driven initiatives. Shit, what was the ES? Maybe it's not supposed to be there.
Yeah.
In the four areas aforementioned, in the four areas, that's not right, not aforementioned. Above mentioned, aforesaid.
or 4 areas listed above.
There you go.
I mean, after all, this is to the BOS, not to the public, right?
What's that? Yes, exactly.
This is to the, yeah,
Yeah, but you know, while we're going through this, a lot of the stuff that was said is gonna make sense when it does go before the public. So it's good to
Yeah.
hash it out now. At least we know where we're going with it. Okay, is everybody okay with this document as it stands? Why don't we take a vote on that? Somebody give me a, whatever that's called. Somebody
a
make a
motion, a
motion.
motion.
a
Yeah.
motion to approve this be given to the BOS.
Okay, and we got to do it by roll call vote. So Mark,
Yeah,
Adrian,
Yes, aye.
Amanda,
Aye.
Kyle, I don't know if Kyle's still there.
You might have had to step away.
Okay, Deb,
Kyle
votes
votes
aye.
aye.
okay, good. And I vote aye, so it's unanimous, which is what we want to see. Okay, now, the other thing mentioned in this letter is that one page. Let me share this.
Mr. Chair, while you're pulling that up, I'm gonna have to jump off this call in a couple minutes. Could I just run through a timeline with the group real quick?
Yes, please.
Thank you. So the question is kind of, where do you go from here? So if you've all approved that letter, it's gonna go to the Board of Selectmen, probably at their December 19th meeting. So I guess there's a question to the committee, through the chair, if you would like Mr. Romanowski to just deliver it, or if you would like to call a joint meeting, if there's gonna be a quorum of you, and you can all be present and deliver it in a joint meeting with the Board of Selectmen on Monday, the 19th. From there, that will prompt the Board of Selectmen to establish an official special town meeting date, which would be either Monday, March 13th, or Tuesday, March 14th. No preference, but whatever works. And so from there, pretty much December until that March date, if you can get the support from the Board of Selectmen, it would mean having public outreach sessions in the community, virtually or in person, or a mix of both, and kind of going, doing your push and trying to, convince your fellow residents to turn out and vote. So that's where you're going to kind of go from here. Does anybody have questions on that?
do we have to have a quorum to be there? I know that when the master plan the committee, they went in front of the BOS to do this, and they didn't have a quorum. They just picked two people to speak on the matter.
Here's a caveat
Great question. So,
that Justin
Yep.
failed to mention. Is that I'm leaving for Florida on December 10th or 11th. So I will not be at the select board meeting. I'm not returning, and well, I'll be back at maybe the 3rd or 4th of March for the annual town meeting, but we'll need to get together prior to that, I would think.
Dave, we could get you up on the screen if you wanted to zoom in.
I don't want to, but I will if I need to.
And then I suppose it's also worth mentioning that I have another son. I have a baby coming sometime in early March. So we're trying to dodge a couple different things.
I'm curious, what's the push to put this in the board's hands? Like, I know that traditionally the towns tried to focus on that the select board is the sole controller of what goes on the warrant, but like, you know, we could put this on the warrant ourselves if we want to. We're just asking them to put their approval behind it. But we
So
say
you
accommodate,
have
and now
to. Sorry, so what I was going to say was, and it's an important question you're asking, and there's a distinction there. So a citizen can place a citizen petition anytime you want, but the selectmen have to call a meeting. Now you can override that if if it's a really contentious situation, you can override the Board of Selectmen and get enough votes to call, the citizens can call a special town meeting. But as a matter of etiquette, you're better served just asking them as a courtesy if they'd be willing to entertain it.
yeah.
So that's why, but that's a good question, Mark.
I mean, I know that my neighbors put up a warrant, like I wrote it, he put it up, and it had nothing to do with the BOS. There was nothing.
Well, you put up an
They
article.
didn't, yeah. And that's what we're talking about.
So what you're asking the selectmen, you're not asking them to put on the article. You're asking them to call the special town meeting. So if they don't call a special town meeting, there's nothing that you can put your article on.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. Great question, though. Great question.
That's what I was missing.
So that's
So
another,
those little the nitty gritty mechanics of it.
I assumed the special meeting was happening for other things at the same time. I didn't realize it was solely for this.
Yeah, it's going to be a standalone article. No
Okay.
clutter, no distractions.
I didn't realize that.
so that's one of the next
Yep.
tasks too, is putting together that article.
Yeah. And that's why I keep saying we need to review the bylaws and talk about what other towns have done and what we want ours to do, because we have control over deciding things. Like we can put more citizens on the seat. Like right now, at the bare minimum of the law requires, what is it, 1 or 2 citizen seats, and then the rest are I mean, they're all citizens, but they're from other committees. Whereas I think that we should have, you know, like at least 4 seats that are open to citizens that aren't already on those committees that are dictated by the law. And
So I would put that on an upcoming agenda, because you can
Yeah,
get
like-
sample language off the CPA website and then you can build off of it.
right, well, that's what I'm saying. And then I asked everybody at the last meeting, or it was in an email, I forget which, for everybody to like peruse that on the site and look at other towns' articles, because we can just, you know, copy and paste language that we like, and we can learn from what's been done and come up with our own ideas. But I really think that, you know, no disrespect to you, Justin, but I think that we should author the article, because we're going to put the paradigm on it that we think is good after exploring it, that we think the community wants, as opposed to.
I would prefer that you pen it. I want nothing to do with it as much as possible. I'll provide guidance if you want it. I'll provide guidance, but I want this to come from you guys.
Well, there you go then.
You
Yep.
mean you guys
But thank
agreed
you. I
on something?
appreciate it.
You guys agreed on something?
It happens.
Deb, write that down.
It's
Okay.
7:20 p.m.
So
Mark
I'm
and
gonna
Justin
ask
agreed.
we agree on a lot of things. Come on.
We do.
I'd like to ask everybody to do that, to go to the website and like look at some other towns, you know, and I think if we don't need to all look at every town, but like, I'm sure if everybody just looks at it, you know, spends an hour on it, we'll all probably choose different towns and different ideas, and different things will stand out to us, and that'll get the conversation going on what's possible, what we think might be new, or what we want to take from old stuff. And
That certainly is a useful website. So I would recommend that also.
yeah, there's a
Anybody
link.
has
I don't remember how to get to it. I can try to figure out again, maybe send some screenshots, but there's a link to every town's bylaw adopting this, how they worded it. So, and that's
All
where
right, I have to get off, but does that timeline work for everybody before I go?
Yes.
Okay, sorry to interrupt
Think
you,
so.
Mark. But good
That-
night, everybody, and let me know if I can help in any way.
Congrats on your conception. Or
Thank you.
whatever.
All right. Talk to you.
Bye.
Yeah.
Okay, so the December, what was it, December 19th?
Yes.
Board of Selectmen's meeting, we're gonna present this letter. We'll probably give it to them prior to. And then we can speak at that meeting.
Yeah. They'll need to go in their packets on the Thursday before.
Yeah. So is Justin intimidated? I could zoom in to that meeting and appear on the screen as a spokesperson. And to your concern, Mark, if we present it as a committee, then let's assume that we would need to have a quorum. It'd be a joint meeting, we need to have the quorum. So as much as I really don't want to do it, I'd prefer just doing it as a speaker and letting it go from there. And a few folks were sitting in the audience, not as a committee, but as an individual.
Right, yeah.
You could
There you go.
always go up and answer questions as an
Yeah, and
individual.
I'm sure the select board will have some questions for us that we can respond to.
Does that make sense to others?
Yeah.
Okay, so that'll be the plan.
So you're wanting to do the sales pitch, is what I'm hearing.
No, I'm not, I'm not
You're
wanting to.
volunteering to do
Actually,
the sales pitch.
actually, I'm just gonna go and you know, I don't think we need to reread the letter to them. I'm just gonna ask if there's any questions or comments.
I mean, it is a good time for the public to hear some of the nitty gritty. And I think that we should be ready to answer the big questions of how the match works and what it is and how the 3% threshold is actually plays, you know, like how to calculate it for each house. I mean, we need to be ready for that. So
I think we need to have that calculation for each house on this one pager.
and then we need to have all the exemptions on there too,
Yeah,
because that's important. Like it's, you know, the exemption for poverty levels and
but
the
again,
first 100 grand.
yeah, again, what I guess, no, it's not alls we're asking, that we are asking that there be a special town meeting. So that's kind of a big deal because that costs money.
They may ask us why
much as we
want to
much
do it
as-
so fast.
What's
Do you have
that?
an answer to that? If you made me think, they might ask us, why are we trying to do it so fast? What's the rush? Do we have an
Well, I
answer
would
to
say
that?
that the answer to that is we're trying to get it at the town meeting. Trying to get it
Okay.
at the annual, not the annual town meeting, but the annual election to be on the
Okay.
ballot.
I would also state that this hasn't been very fast. We've been on this committee for a while, exploring and studying and researching. So I don't think it's been something we rushed to get onto a town meeting either.
True.
No, I was just saying, but they might be asking why it needs to be a special
Yep.
session.
Yeah, and that's to get it on the town ballot.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
And that Justin and I worked over that timing. And that date for the town meeting, excuse me, the special meeting, I think it was the 23rd or 22nd, whatever that was in March. That's the last date that we can possibly go to because it's got to be written up and submitted the following day by the town clerk.
So does that mean we have to have the bylaw written by then?
The article, you mean?
Yeah,
The article, yes. Excuse me, it was the 12th or the 13th. I'm getting operated on on the 20th, so it can't be the 23rd.
good luck.
Thanks.
So the article doesn't have to, it just states that there's going to be a bylaw. We don't have to have the bylaw ready for that.
Yeah, I think the more we can be prepared for it, the better off we'll be, though.
Yeah. I mean, that's not going to be like something we're going to magically come up with between now and the 19th.
Well, I think, like you say, if we can go to the CPA website and go to those individual towns and the articles and
Yeah.
bylaws that they utilize, then
Yeah.
we don't have to reinvent it.
Well, if we want to speed up that process, should I make a motion now to do my idea that we have at least 4 citizen seats? Or, I mean, can we just talk about that? Do you guys agree with me?
Well, I'd like to get through this one pager first.
Oh, okay.
So,
I get sidetracked.
no, that's okay. So we need to somewhere on this one page or in the letter or in an additional document, explain the formula and explain the exemptions. And I think
So
I'm
you're
looking
wanting
for a volunteer to do that.
So you're wanting to fit it onto this page.
No, I think it'd be better off on a separate document, and we'll note in the letter that there are 2 attached documents.
Okay. So the exemptions, as far as those, I think we just copy and paste the exact wording from the law for the exemptions.
Well, there's choices to be made.
Well, we've already voted that what we're proposing are certain exemptions.
Yeah, but I'd like to get it in writing, and I don't want to do it if I can help it. Can somebody volunteer to do that for the exemptions and the formula?
Well, I can copy and paste the exemptions and give them to you.
Okay,
I mean, I know how I came up with the formula and it worked, and Justin agreed with it. We both came up with the same formula from different directions. He came up with the same number, but I don't know if that's up to date. I don't have the new tax rate, the current tax rate. I mean, so just so everybody know, I mean, we all know what the formula is, right? Or not?
well, I couldn't recite it.
So the formula
I'd have to
is
look.
it's 3% of your tax rate. So
After
if you
100,
pay
after 100,000.
after with the exemption after 100,000. So
Right.
if you're spending $15.11, I forget if that's what it was at the time, you take what's 3% of that, and then you apply that. That's for every $1,000. That's how they measure it, like, you know, $15 for every $1,000 of property value. So then you take 3% of that $15 and multiply that times every $1,000 you have of your property. So it's, you know, is it 15? Does anybody know what the current tax
No,
rate
that
is?
doesn't even, the
Is it
formula doesn't, that could be a variable in the formula.
Right, but I'm just trying to double check my logic on it. It's like, I think it was like 1511 or something. Yeah, so that was it at the time. So you multiply times 0.533, only it's actually, you multiply your value, it would be, I think you add 2 zeros in there, so 0.004533 times your property value minus your property value minus 100 grand times 0.004533. I think that's what it was. I might have the decimal place put in the wrong place, but I think that's what it is.
Okay, I don't think we're gonna have time for a meeting prior to submitting this letter to the Board of Selectmen. Can I get a motion that would allow me to place in that letter that's additional attachment that would have the exemptions and the formula?
Yeah,
Mark made that motion, I believe. Somebody seconded it?
I make a motion to do what David just said, to give him permission to come up with that document with the exemptions and the formula. And I just verified the formula is, with that tax rate, is 0.004533.
Now, were there any extraordinary exemptions, or did we just go plain vanilla? Like, did
There
we do
was,
anything different for businesses versus citizenry?
no,
versus
that was,
residential?
I think we went the same on that. And then we did the income level and elderly under a certain income, like if you're, I forget what it is, but I can copy and paste that and give it to you just directly from the
Okay.
law.
Yeah, please.
There was like 3 or 4 of them.
Okay. So we got the motion, and did we get a second?
I second it.
Okay. All in favor, roll call. Mark,
Aye.
Adrian?
Aye.
I know it's not Chandler. Amanda?
I got my daughter's computer. I'm sorry. Amanda, yes, aye.
Kyle?
Aye.
Deb?
Aye.
Okay. And you'll all get a copy of that.
When are you going to work on that?
As soon as you give me what those are, and I'll work with Justin on making sure that going through the formula one more time and the tax
Okay.
rate.
Okay.
I'd like to get that letter to them prior to me leaving, which I'm leaving, I believe I'm leaving on the 10th. I'm driving down, so I'm gonna take my time.
Okay.
All right, so we don't have to go over that one pager again. That's just gonna be an attachment that we'll just present with them, to them. All right, that was it for the agenda, because we really wanted to get through this tonight to get everything in order. Are there any other items that folks would like to discuss prior to adjourning the meeting?
I'd just like to get everybody thinking about the bylaw and questions like, do we want to have more citizens on it? I know that people that I know and talked to, Justin included, like he's the one that started me thinking about this, that's a selling idea. To have
I
more
think so
than,
too. I agree with
more
that
than,
also.
yeah, okay. But I think that there's probably room for some more creativity like that can set the tone of this thing. That
Do
we
you have
have,
one so do you have one representative for open space, historic preservation, recreation, and housing, and then you're proposing to have other citizens on the board as well?
yeah, so as it sits now, you have to have what you just stated, plus I think 1 or 2, I can't remember, in the CPA law, that's what you have to have in the committee, but you can add the number of citizen seats to that. So that way you have free floating citizens that, like aren't already volunteering for a committee, and it gives the vibe to people when we want to sell this to people, they're like, well, it's going to be the same old people deciding things. You can say, well, no, actually there's going to be 4 seats open to people that aren't the same old.
Let's
because we're
make sure,
putting-
let's make sure if we can with the bylaw that those seats are elected as opposed to appointed too.
Yeah, that's a great one. I like that. I forgot that aspect. That's
And it should be an odd number total on the board, correct? Like you don't want to have 4 and then another 4.
No, you want an odd number if you can help it.
Yeah.
okay.
Plus, the more you have, the harder you might have to get a quorum. Just to have that also.
Yeah,
That's a good point.
okay. A motion to adjourn, anyone?
So when is our next meeting actually? Is it in December?
Well, we haven't, no, I think if we get through the Board of Selectmen and that if it gets approved for the special town meeting, special town meeting would be the 12th or the 13th of March. I would suggest we have a meeting maybe a week before that.
So we're taking a break until mid-February.
I was thinking March, but maybe we get together in February to go through the bylaw and article.
I'll
Yeah,
just
the
make-
bylaws
Why don't we do
could be
that?
some work.
Yeah,
Right.
let's make it on a non-select board and other board Monday night.
All right.
If
I'll
someone
make
could
the-
look at the town calendar and then just.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right, so I'll make the motion to adjourn.
Okay, so we don't have a meeting scheduled. We'll schedule it as soon as we get through this next step, sometime in February.
Okay,
Unless it seems important to have it sometime in January, but I think we can do February. Gives people more time to get through some of this homework, which is looking at the bylaws and the articles. Okay,
And we can always email you individually.
Yeah.
We can, if we have a copy and paste something we like, we can email it to you and then you can share it to us, I think.
Yeah.
As a group or not. Yeah. Okay.
okay, so Deb made a motion to adjourn. Somebody's gonna second it.
I second it.
Okay, all in favor? Aye.
All right.
All right,
Good night.
thanks, guys. Good meeting.
Night.
Thank you.
Bye.